behavioral priming is the idea that things that are below maybe our conscious level, or just at that level of consciousness that we see it, but it doesn't really register for us, impacts the way that we think. It as they say, it activates neural pathways within our brain that lend our thinking down that makes it easier for our thoughts to go down a certain pathway versus another pathway. So if a pathway, again, the way that we think is neurons fire, various different connections make, and that's how we think. And if certain of those are activated, they're easier to trigger. And so therefore we go down different pathways on that. That's, for instance, if I said, I give you this idea and I start talking about lunch, and I start talking about all the great food that we have. And I say, hey, give me, what's a word that starts with S, has 2 letters in the middle, and ends with P? And then if I say that after having just talked about lunch, most people, not everybody, will guess soup, right? But if I had talked about, oh, hey, I need to clean myself, I like to take a bath, I'm going to be doing, I want to make sure that I get all the germs done in various different pieces. And I say, what's a word that starts with S, two letters in the middle, and ends with P? People will more likely say soap, right? So that's the priming part of this, right? So it's the same S, 2 letters, P, but because I've talked about either food up front or about cleanliness up front, you're more likely to go down one of those neural pathways. Same thing can happen from a marketing and thinking about this from like website design. Bob Cialdini, who is one of the grand masters of behavioral science, they call him the grandfather of influence. If you haven't read his book, you should. It's called Influence. It's great. But he talks about these websites, and they did this experiment. It was a furniture store that had a website. So they were selling furniture. And the landing page, they did this experiment where one of the landing pages, just the background, right? So not the words, nothing else changed. They just changed the background. One of them had pictures of fluffy clouds, right? Little white clouds on a blue background. And one of them, then they looked at that, and they looked at what people bought for there, but then they switched up and they put one that had dollar signs. So it was American. So they had dollar signs in the background and all this money kind of pieces. And again, same exact copy. Everything else was the same. It was only at the front page that they had those 2 different backgrounds going. When they looked at the results from that, the people who saw the clouds ended up buying furniture that was deemed to be more comfortable, that was more soft, luxurious, often had a higher profit margin because it was various different pieces of that. When they had shown the people that had been logged on with the money sign purchase, they were more focused in on cost. So they were more cost conscious. And there was a significant difference in what people bought, when in fact, if you go, that should the clouds or money in the background make any difference to whether I buy a soft recliner or a cheap, hard recliner? No. And when we think about it, that shouldn't impact my buying decision. My buying decision should be made because I want a recliner that is comfortable and fits within these budgetary guidelines. But because they're primed for those factors, it actually does. It sends our brains down certain ways. And so we tend to look at different types of furniture and have different things that are more primed for us, so that we are more likely to pay attention to the various different paths.